Hey everybody, Invisiblekatana here with my review for Venom. Saw this movie on Thursday. Honestly, the only reason I'm doing this review so much later is because honestly, I just didn't even feel like reviewing it. Like I just didn't care for this movie like at all. And it was funny going through the process of watching this movie. It was like, okay, saw the movie. I was just disappointed, and I was like, there's some parts I liked. For the most part, didn't care at all. And then I was leaving the theater, and I was like, have I reached the point where I'm just like too nerdy. Like I'm just too attached to the comic book version of a character to like it. And I was thinking that the whole time because I'm like, it's the first full Venom movie. Like we've had Venom in Spider-Man 3, which also was, its own issue there. But it didn't bug me as much, and I feel like it was because there were a million things already wrong with this. Like much like Spider-Man 3, not rated R, which it totally should have been. Everyone's saying that across the world. It should have been rated R. It's Venom, and they do some rated R stuff. It's not like they don't do anything that's hardcore that Venom has done, like as far as like eating people. Like people get eaten in this movie, and it's like people get shot and thrown through walls and windows, all sorts of insane stuff. And it's like there's literally, I think it's even in the trailer a little bit, the part where Eddie Brock's like bones start coming back together because like the symbiote like puts his bones back in place, and there's not even really blood there. Like there's not like blood on the ground. It's just like the bone sticking out, and it's like the white bone. Like maybe there's a little red on it. It's like this doesn't make any sense. This is dumb. But yeah, I just didn't like it. And then after, like I said, I had to go through my thought process of like, am I just too close to Venom? Because Venom's my favorite villain. And so it's just like, is that it? Is it just that I love Venom that much just as a villain that I just can't enjoy this at all? Granted, going into it, I didn't like the way they had Tom Hardy do Eddie Brock at all. I thought he just sounded weird. And watching the movie, it still bugged me. It didn't bug me as much, but I was like, yep, I still don't like it. It was just weird to me that he was, in general, it wasn't just that it was a different version of Eddie Brock, but just the way he even sounded. I just thought, like, he just sounds weird to me, like the way he talks in this whole movie. So it was like, didn't like that the whole movie. Venom himself was awesome. Venom was huge. The very first time Venom shows up is actually super sweet. It takes like 30 minutes to get there, and before that, it's just like, I don't care. It's kind of boring. Here's like 100 references that they can't actually reference. It was almost like watching the Netflix shows where they say, like, oh, it's the dude with the shield and stuff. Like, they can't say stuff, but there's references where it's like, that's meant to be this person, but they can't really say it because technically Marvel kind of owns it, but Sony also kind of owns it, and it's just like all dumb. So all the references are just like annoying to me. Like, I don't know why. That was definitely the comic book in me, the comic nerd in me, where I'm just like, they have these references and they can't even really do them, and it just annoyed me. But maybe it was also because of just like the Netflix thing. We've had that for so many years now. It's just like annoying every time it happens where they make like half references to stuff, and it's just like, that just seems dumb. It seems like pointless to even bother putting it in at this point if you can't just say the reference. But a bunch of that. The first 30 minutes was also just like, meh, whatever. Here's this, and them introducing characters and stuff goes on that I'll talk about when I get to like my spoiler section of this. But overall, it was just like a disappointing movie. Like I enjoyed some of the parts with Venom. I can't say all of it. I didn't really like Eddie Brock that much. The way they had him acted as a character, he was kind of a douchebag. Like something he does, like in within those first 30 minutes, it was just like, huh. It was just like that was almost like close to normal Eddie Brock, but he did it in like a different way. So it was kind of weird that it fit a little bit. Like that's kind of normal Eddie Brock, but the way it happened was just like, well, he's supposed to not be a full on douchebag like he is in the comic books, but that was a full on douchebag move. Like what he did in the very beginning was a full on douchebag move, and it's technically never really. It's not look. There's a lot of stuff actually that's never like kind of done the way it's supposed to be, emotion wise and character wise. People are just like, sure, that thing happened. I'm fine with it. I've totally changed allegiances. I'm not bad. I'm good. I'm good. I'm bad. It's just like boom. It's like everything in the whole movie. There's a lot of stuff like that, and that was another interesting part about just watching it, where it's like, huh, that was real quick. Like nothing happened here. There was no real development. Like this happens like maybe late in the movie, where it's like that should have been like the first thing that happened to bond these characters together. And it's just like, huh. It's just whole thing was just like kind of annoying to me. So can't really say I'd recommend it. Maybe dollar theater. Just wait to see it later. It's not like there's much to really look at. I mean, honestly, the action sequences literally are all at nighttime. Only one is technically lit, and that's like the one that's in the trailer where he's in the apartment. Other than that, it's literally nighttime, like on the street, like the motorcycle chase, which you could clearly see the stunt double on the motorcycle because they literally use like slow motion during some of those scenes, and he was a fairly decent distance, but it was more than enough time. Like, it's in slow motion. Plus, there's explosions going on to light up the guy's face, even if it's from behind. Like, you can see that that's not, Tom Hardy. So it was like, that was kind of just, man. Just watching that whole sequence, I was like, I feel like this should be way more entertaining than it really is. And that was like that was a really long chase sequence. And I was just like, this isn't really that cool to me. Like, and it was interesting thinking that, like, in the middle of it, I was just like, this just looks okay. Like, he kind of uses the Venom stuff, like, for, like, minute little things that don't even really look that cool. There's, like, one thing he does that I thought was fairly cool before he officially becomes Venom. And other than that, like, maybe two things, but really it was just like, Like, he's kind of, the arm shootout is, like, what you see in the trailer is really what you get. Other than that, it's really just him on the motorcycle just weaving in and out. Like, maybe his arms look black or something like that. And it's like, really, there's a lot of it where he's not actually using the Venom symbiote. He's just riding the motorcycle, and maybe his arms, Venom is taking over to drive faster. And it's like, there's really not much Venom in this until the end, and that's when you get the full Venom reveal, where, like I said, he looks good, super awesome. I love the fact that they did put it in there where he does actually eat people, but once again, not rated R, so it's like, well, that's weird. There's just no blood anywhere ever, so stuff like that. But all in all, can't really recommend the movie. I didn't hate it. I feel like I'm in the exact same camp as everyone else, where it's like, you watch it and you're just like, you're not necessarily bored, you're just kind of disappointed the whole way through. And I realized, after I felt like I had to watch other people's reviews first to be like, I feel like I need to just see what other people are saying first. And I was like, okay, I'm not crazy. Like, it's not because I'm tied to Venom. It's just the movie just wasn't that entertaining. But you're not bored. You're just kind of like, this isn't really that good. Like, there's stuff. And one thing that's really funny that a couple of people have said is, like, it's good if it was like one of the older comic book movies, like, set during the time of, like, Daredevil and stuff. It was like, this would be fit right in line. And it did feel like that when I was watching it, because I'd heard that before I went to see it, where people said, like, oh, it's like, Fantastic Four type stuff, where it's like, it's old sort of tropes and, like, old sort of writing for comic book movies. And it did kind of feel that way. So it was a disappointment for sure. It's done well as far as money, so maybe we'll actually see a sequel. And if we do, I would love for it to be better. Because, like I said, I wasn't bored with this. I was just, like, super disappointed. And there's some stuff, a ton of stuff that's just dumb, which, like I said, I'll talk about in spoilers. But we'll see what happens if it officially gets a sequel, what the heck they're going to do, if it's going to somehow be tied into the MCU, which I hope not. In all honesty, I was like, I'd be totally fine if they were just like, nope. Plus, if they do tie it in, then they have some very interesting story elements to change up as far as some of the Spider-Man stuff. So we'll see how all that stuff plays out, but I just didn't enjoy myself that much. So that's pretty much it for that. But going into spoilers, the first thing, of course, is them. They were super ambitious, honestly. Like, I just don't. They were so ambitious. Like, them doing the Carnage thing with Woody Harrelson and stuff, and it's like, oh, okay, terrible, terrible wig. I think they may have saved DC from the whole Titans situation and all that. I think, Venom took care of that for at least for a minute. It's like everyone's just going to be talking about that wig and how bad it was. So it's kind of come full circle, because Marvel had it first with the Inhumans with that terrible wig, and then Titans came out from DC and they're like, everyone hates this, and now Venom's come out and it's like, what is that? So it's come full circle. Venom's got it back with the terrible wig department. But they were super ambitious with that. I was like, wow, this movie is not that good. And they were just like, they were basically just jerking off into the screen, like Carnage. Like, I was just like, wow, that was ambitious and just dumb. So dumb. It's just ambitious and terrible, terrible wig. And I don't know what he would even look like in the actual movie, because they'd probably do it where he cut his hair and they just dye what little hair Woody Harrelson actually has left. They might just dye it red. I don't know. But I was just like, wow, they're just jerking off. They're jerking themselves off. That's what they were doing with that mid credit sequence. But just like, okay, I love Carnage. Carnage is sweet. I just don't know if I have any faith in the sequel after watching this movie. But it's like, okay, that was something. Before that, you have the fancy sequence with Eminem doing the theme song. I actually like the theme song. I like the actual in credits version of the theme song better than the actual song itself, because they put the chorus in there more if you watch the credits. And I think the chorus was entertaining. So I was like, oh, that's cool. The song after the post-credit sequence, or the mid-credit sequence, I actually liked too, because it's Run the Jewels and I like them. So I was like, wow, I really like this music. I was really finding stuff. I was like, wow, this song is entertaining. And I didn't feel like that hype actually watching the movie. And then, of course, go through, get to our post-credit sequence, which is like a couple minutes. I think it was like a maybe 2-3 minute clip from Into the Spider-Verse. And in all honesty, I've heard other people say this, but I felt exactly the same way. I was like, I smiled. Like, I was legitimately watching that, and I was like smiling because I was laughing. I was like, I love the visuals, because this was the first time I'd actually seen like any of the trailers for that movie. Like, it showed, of course, before Venom, but I was like, wow, that's the first time I've actually seen the Spider-Verse trailer like in theaters. And I love the visuals for that movie in general, but seeing it like in the theater on the big screen, I was like, this actually looks even better than I thought it did. And it already looks great just watching on my phone or on my laptop. So getting to see like the actual full clip and just watching it in motion without like just the cuts, to show cool stuff from the trailer, I was like, this is awesome. It was little funny stuff. They show, it's after Miles goes through the issue with Prowler. I won't give away certain spoilers there for people who may not know who the Prowler is. But he goes through that motion, and then he goes to Peter's grave, and excuse me, based on how the trailer plays, I assume that Peter was there before that scene, and he lost Miles. Like, Miles may have taken off, and so Peter had to find him, and he found him at his gravestone. So I was like, that was a cool sequence. And they're, going through the city, and he's like, crap, I don't have any, web shooters, so he uses Peter's, and then they're flying through, and they attach to the subway. And it was just a fun sequence. Visually, it looked cool. It was definitely funny. And I was like, I can't wait to see this movie. Like, this is going to be fantastic. And I just enjoyed, like, that couple of little minutes. I was like, this just feels good. And I was smiling, and I was happy. And I was just like, wow, I didn't smile once. I may have smiled once. There were some jokes that definitely made me laugh. But it was just like, yeah, I didn't feel any of this, like, just hope, I guess, while watching Venom. So it was interesting. I can't wait for Spider-Verse. I'm so excited for that, especially after actually seeing the clip. I'm like, man, I can't freaking wait to see that movie. So looking forward to that. Venom was meh. Random issue, same issue that everyone else has been having. Tons of stuff happens character-wise where it's like, that's not development. That's just them saying the next new thing. Venom being, going from working with the symbiotes to working against the symbiotes, because it's like, well, I think this is cool now, like, you changed me, even though Eddie was a douchebag and he didn't really do anything. There are also a lot of moments that really annoyed me, because this was something where I was like, this is one of the easiest things to just keep for the character. For one, Venom gets the name Venom, and Venom is just Venom, which is not how it is in the comics. But something that's normal is that Venom is basically able to read Eddie's mind. And so there's even a scene where they say it, where Venom's like, he says something, Eddie's like, how do you know that? And he's like, I know everything about you. And I'm like, oh, that's because basically symbiotes literally can, like, read your mind. When they meld with you, they have your mind. They know everything that you know. And so it was the craziest thing where there would be like a couple of moments in this movie where Venom was just like, what are we about to do next? And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Like, Venom knows everything that's about to happen. They're supposed to be, symbiotic. Like, that's almost the point, is that they have that match, that they know exactly what's about to happen. It's not as strong as Carnage, but it's still that thing, like, we are Venom. And it was just like, that's super annoying. Like, there is no I, and that, and they had to change a little bit from the movie, and I get that. Even though technically they didn't have to change it. But it was just interesting watching that. Riot shows up, and, who cares? Scream was in there. They did have a yellow symbiote, and they don't do anything with that, so that might have something, going down the line sequel wise. That might be how Carnage comes about. It won't be it'll be weird. It could be that they make Carnage the offspring of Scream instead of Venom, but that would also change the whole idea of Venom basically having to stop his own son. So hopefully they leave that in there, at least, to have, like, some element of attachment, because that would be a huge drive compared to, it's just that other symbiote that didn't get, like, any play. It was just like, here's yellow because comic books. Speaking of the different symbiotes, what's with the 6 months? That didn't make any sense. Like, I was just annoyed. Like, watching the whole movie, they do the 6-month time skip, and then they show the symbiote finally made it to the airport, and I was like, this is weird. It's not like this woman was, like, dirt poor or anything like that. Like, she could have saved up. Didn't need to save up. It's a symbiote. Just jump from body to body. This person's getting on a plane to the U.S., which also was a weird thing, because I'm like, well, the symbiote is just a symbiote. What was going on that it was, like, driven to find the Life Foundation and find the villain of the movie, Riz Ahmed's character. I honestly don't even remember the name of the guy. But it was just weird. I was like, why would the symbiote even be driven to do all of that? And it leaves to go find this guy, and it just didn't make any sense. And plus, it took 6 months, which was just dumb. I was like, they didn't even need the time skip. They could have just done a montage, and it would be like, oh, it's been a little bit of time, or just do nothing. You know, it could have been the next day, or just do a week. I don't know. Like, I'd be at least a little bit more comfortable if it was like a week. But 6 months, and it took the symbiote to get there. Stayed in one body. The whole thing was that it was killing people and switching bodies, and it switched to an older woman, even though it was in the body of like a younger woman who would be more mobile and all these other little things. So it switched to an older woman, and then it just stayed in that body for just like 6 straight months. And I was like, that's just dumb. That doesn't even remotely make any sense. So that was one of the other weird things. We don't know what happened with Eddie's girlfriend when she ends up bonding with the symbiote. Whole scene of that I feel may have been cut. Like they talk about that with or Tom Hardy mentioned that where it was like 40 minutes of the movie got cut, and it was all his favorite stuff. So I'm like, maybe all the stuff that would have made a decent story like flow is everything that we got, just tossed on the cutting room floor, because that's a big chunk to throw out with Eddie's girlfriend, where she accepts Venom from this dog and then becomes she Venom, and it's like, that's a big deal. And then it's just like over and done, and they have like a little slight reference to it at the end of the movie, like, it was addicting or whatever, the power, even though they're talking about the kiss and all that crap. It's just like, wow, this is bad. It was just annoying and bad, and just a lot of stuff was just missing and just dumb. So those are my thoughts on it. That's why it took me so long. Not that anyone cares, this would have like one view anyway, but yeah, I was just annoyed watching that movie, and I can't wait for Spider-Verse. I would love to see Venom. I can't say I would love to see this get a sequel, honestly. I would love for this to just be like a one-off thing, and then they just do Venom well in the MCU. I'd be fine with that. They already have the Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, they could just go full on, just go full tilt, skip straight to the end. Like, hey, symbiote planet. Like, they have that in there. They kind of have a little bit of that with, the symbiotes having their own names and all that crap. And Venom talking about, like, I'm a bit of a loser like you, and that's why we bond so well, which I thought was kind of cool, but that wasn't necessarily right. Like, Venom was just nicer. But I see how that kind of plays out. Like, the Venom symbiote technically is nicer than other symbiotes. So it's like, okay, that's fine to kind of have that change. But yeah, I just a lot of disappointment in this. Maybe it's part of it's being tied so close to the character and seeing it done well. Like, obviously the 90s cartoon Spectacular Spider-Man did it like perfectly, I'd say. But just this, I mean, there's no Spider-Man there. Eddie Brock isn't a bad guy. Venom wasn't really that bad. It was literally like, I'm gonna help destroy the planet with Riot and the other unnamed symbiotes. And it was like, you changed it, even though you're really just a douchebag, and you kind of gave money to people, and you pretty much did nothing for like 6 months. Like, that was pretty much what he did. Like, he got fired, he lost his fiance, did nothing for 6 months, tried to find something else, and little stuff like that. And that's pretty much it. Speaking of which, him being a douchebag, when they break into the place and he gives his old boss the phone, he wrote like dickhead or something like that, and I was like, what a douchebag move. Like, he got fired for being an utter dick and not saying where he got his sword, just a bunch of stuff. And I was just like, he's calling his boss a dickhead or whatever he wrote on that paper. And I was like, that is astounding to me that he wrote that on there. I'm like, his boss was not wrong in any way, shape, or form, and he called him a dickhead. I was just like, yeah, it just makes me hate him a little bit more, which kind of works for the normal Eddie, but this is just boring Eddie. That's what this is. But yeah, Venom looks sweet. Ate some people's heads. There was no blood. Disappointing movie. That's my thoughts on it. Would love to know yours. What do you guys think about the crazy wig for Carnage? Do you want there to be a sequel? Do you want them to just be like, that's done, just let Marvel have it, because that's what I want? What do you guys think about Spider-Verse? I'm looking forward to that. I'm super excited for that. So definitely want to know what you guys are thinking. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.